Joining me now is Sean Samson, the president and CEO of EVNI. Thanks for coming in.
Great, thanks for being here.
So the goal of the company is to eventually produce clean nickel, battery-grade nickel for electric vehicle battery makers. And you've got a two-track strategy with Shaw Dome, that's high grade. You've got Carlang, that's large scale. So give us a little synopsis, an overview.
Yeah, that's it. So we've rolled together a huge amount of land just southeast of Timmins, Ontario. And across that land, we have over 100 kilometers of exploration strike. So we've trying to manage our opportunities or trying to prioritize is a big challenge. And as you say, we have the two tracks. Well, one, we hope to be into production 3 to 4 years. And the other one is a much larger exercise. And it's actually a dual thing where it'll be an enormous carbon capture and storage project in addition to a huge producer of clean nickel. So that's Carlang, that's the large scale, and then we've got the high grade starting with W4.
Right, in W4, with your drilling, you discovered an extension under the 2010 resource. So what's the significance of that? And we know you're planning phase 4 drilling, so what are the plans there?
Yeah, so the W4, the historic resource, goes down to about 220 meters from surface, goes right to surface, and comes down to about 220. So we drilled that from a new angle. We went across the river, went with deep shots, and we discovered mineralization below that. So the W4 extension, as we call it, goes from about 220 down to about 500 meters of vertical depth. So it's all near surface type stuff, underground development, but all within 500 meters. And now we're beginning drilling with February 1, doing additional infill on those deep shots. And all that will feed into our new resource for W4.
And then with Carlang in phase 3, you drilled 28 holes. You've got assay results from pretty well all of them. And you said that it has enormous potential. So what are some of the factors that make you believe that?
Yeah, so Carlang is enormous. The mineralization goes for over 10 kilometers. We've drilled less than 15% of that. So we've done shots down to about 250 meters. We've come out with most of those assays. We've had great consistent results right around 0.25% nickel. Now that's low grade, but we think it's a huge deposit and it's all in sequence. So we're going to come out with a resource, we hope, in the first quarter of this year, so before PDAC, let's say. And we think that's going to be something like 400 to 600 million tons at 0.25. Obviously, we need to do the work. We've come out with the assays. People can look at those in our news releases. But the thing is going to be huge. That's the first 15% of the mineralization. And what we really like about it is a few things. One, it's got no overburden. So now that we've drilled through, we think our overburden is going to average less than 5 meters. And that compares quite favorably to, for example, Canada Nickel, which has the Crawford, which averages about 40 meters of overburden. So that's a lot of dirt you need to get through to get to low-grade mineralization. Plus, it's all been logged, so we have great road access across. We don't need to chopper in like some of the other deposits up there. We've got wonderful access. And then as well, it's, we need to get processing. There's no processing capacity for something enormous like that. But we think when we compare large-scale deposits, the combination of having minimal overburden, 10 kilometers of the stuff, should really set up Carlang for being something special. And then alongside, it has the very same chemistry as we've seen with other dunites up in the Timmins area. So we anticipate that the carbon capture potential is also going to be huge. So that's what we're really excited about for Carlang.
Right, and so we're waiting for a maiden resource. We'll look out for that. And then with W4, you're looking to put out some sort of updated resource. First half of the year, I guess, is that the timetable?
Yeah, that's what we're saying, first half.
And
that's
what are your expectations there?
Well, we're currently sitting on an historic resource, which is a little under 700,000 tons at 1%. So our assays have come back with very similar mineralization, going deeper. What we're drilling now, starting in February, is a bit on the shoulders plus infill. So if we have great hits on that drilling, maybe we do more drilling and we push that updated resource later in the year. But the target right now is second quarter. And we have said that, again, we need to do the work, but our target there is something like a doubling of what the historic resource is.
Now, you said, Sean, that you expect to be in production there in 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
So as the leader of this company, what are the keys to executing, to hitting all your milestones, making sure the team is on track, and to getting there?
Sure. So the things we're working on for W4 include, we're already in permitting, so we're going after a mining lease. We're expecting that this year. That'll be the first of our stages of permitting. Then we got to figure out how we go after the rock. So we need to do more advanced studies regarding our mine plan. And what we need for that, of course, is better understanding what the deposit is. So that'll be the resource then feeds into PEA, PFS. And then we need to pull together our plan for where we send the rock. So there is a very local processing option with a permitted and operating concentrator just 7 kilometers away, owned by one of our investors. That's an option. If not that, we're looking at going down to Sudbury. That type of grade, the rock can travel. We'll pull that all together, and those are the steps to get us to production in 3 to 4 years.
Very good. Now, this term clean nickel that you use, I understand that you're looking to trade that and mark that in various jurisdictions. So how important is it to keep that part of your story, and how imperative is it to eventually produce this clean nickel for battery grade clean nickel, and doing it with a small footprint?
Yeah, so the clean nickel thing, it helps us out in a few areas. One, and we're almost done that trademark process. One of those areas would be that it helps us with marketing. So it's our product. I'm in the business of producing a commodity. Let's trademark a commodity. That's one thing. But more importantly, Mark, it really sets us up for the cultural sort of guidance, the decisions we make as we look at how we're going to develop our deposits. We do things around low carbon and prioritizing choices that you can make at every step to try to focus on the lowest possible carbon cost. And I think that sets us up very well. And I know this from all of the time we spent downstream with the new possible demand in the nickel space, the car companies, the battery companies. This is front and center for them, the carbon cost attached to the nickel units. So clean nickel at its simplest is sort of a marketing exercise, but it's also a cultural guidance for our company. It's really why we're in the business. It's the reason that I started this company, is to try to have the lowest possible carbon cost nickel, because that is what's required for the EVs and the batteries that go into the EVs if we're going to get serious about the energy transformation.
And lastly, with the stock, as you know, Taylor Combaluzier, Red Cloud analyst, he recently started coverage, and he thinks that EV nickel has a good chance to be a major player of Class 1 nickel. Now, you joke that no mining CEO has ever said, my stock's overvalued. But having said that, you think EV nickel is deeply undervalued compared to peers. And so what do you think that the market's not quite getting at this point?
Well, Taylor gets it and Red Cloud gets it because they've been on site, they've seen the deposits, they've been through our core, they've been through all of our data, and that all went into Taylor's initial report. So we are aligned with Taylor's view of what he thinks the value of the company could be, because these things I'm talking about, the resource first quarter, resource second quarter, this is really the year, after having made discoveries last year, now is the year to get into the details and start putting meat on the bones. From a valuation perspective, whichever way you look at it, we are deeply, deeply undervalued. So, and again, I acknowledge everybody says that. But for us, if you look at off of the valuation of nickel in the ground, future nickel in the ground, there's no way you can not see that we're deeply undervalued. And we've got pretty straightforward slides, plus Red Cloud did a great job in Taylor's report. So from the perspective of nickel in the ground, or also just where our nickel is located. So we are possibly in the best place in the world to permit new mines. We have huge exploration potential, and we're all within a half-hour drive of Timmins. So if you're going to find metal in the ground, from a permitting perspective, from a local stakeholder support perspective, from access to labor perspective, it's the place you want to be. And then, as we're thinking about the new demand in the nickel space, it's no longer smelters in China. It's going to become, especially because of the Inflation Reduction Act, new demand in the U.S. And we are, within a 10-hour drive of Detroit, for example, where we are in Timmins. So there's a valuation perspective from nickel in the ground, for which I think we stand up very well from any perspective. But then if you think about where our site is located and how we're planning to develop these projects, I think there's just a lot of things that set us up quite well, and again, show that we're deeply, deeply undervalued.
Sounds like a lot of tailwinds for EV nickel. Thanks for updating us, and we'll be watching.
Great, thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Sean. Okay, Sean Samson, President and CEO at EV Nickel.